Welcome everyone to today's Rare Birds Mentor Lab session, joining aboard what you need to know and the second session in our career development series. My name is Tegan and I am the Partnerships and Community Manager here at Inspiring Rare Birds. And today I'm joined by Heather Disher, dual business owner, co-author, speaker, board chair, director and non-executive director. To begin, and in the spirit of reconciliation, Rare Birds would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia. And I would like to recognise the Awabakal people, the traditional custodians of where I'm broadcasting from today, and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. For those of you who are new to the Inspiring Rare Birds community, our mission is to support and promote diversity and inclusion, where opportunities in entrepreneurship and leadership exist equally for everyone. We are best known for our mentoring programs, but we also offer a range of educational masterclasses. We host online and in-person events, providing people with the opportunity to build their networks and grow with the Rare Birds community. If you'd like to know more, please indicate your interest in the survey that will pop up at the end of today's session, or you can reach out to me or anyone on the Rare Birds team. So today's session is interactive. Over on the right-hand side, you'll see a chat function. Feel free to introduce yourself, make a comment and connect with others. We've also got a Q&A tab there as well, so feel free to pop in any questions you have for Heather throughout the presentation and we can answer them at the end. There is also a handouts tab. We do have a little handout for today's session, so feel free to jump in there and download it. And I know Heather will be referring to it throughout today's presentation. And now I would like to introduce Heather, who, as a mentor and committee member, has a wealth of knowledge that delivers strategic solutions tailored to unique challenges. So Heather's two businesses, Disher Advisory Synergy and Alchemy Outsources, allow her to leverage her passion for supporting other business owners, sharing her skills and experience in advisory, governance, and operational services. Heather's openness to share while remaining curious about other perspectives ensures interesting, energized, and warm conversations. Welcome, Heather, to today's Mentor Lab.
Thank you, Tegan, and hello, everyone. I'd also like to acknowledge that I am sitting on the lands of the Kulin Nation today, and I acknowledge elders past, present and emerging. And for any First Nations people today, welcome, and really looking forward to sharing some insights with everybody.
All right, Heather, I'll leave you to it.
Fantastic. Okay, so anyone who hasn't had an opportunity to speak with me or connect with me yet will learn that I have a bit of energy and a bit of passion. So if I start flailing around my hands, that's just my excitement and enjoyment at being here today. Please feel free to ask any questions. There's a handout in the handout section. So let's kick us off. Joining a board, what you need to know. So boards, committees, a little bit of backstory so that you understand where I'm coming from. In 2000, I was leading a global team working out of the US and the UK. I was pretty much at the top of my field. If you Google me, you'll see some interesting articles about how fabulous I was way back when. And I was working with some of the largest companies in the world. More and more during my work, I was being asked to speak to the board. So I was fronting up to this massive big room with this big oval table and very stern looking men in three-piece suits and having a conversation with them about the future of their business, their industry and where things were going. These boards, I learned, were setting culture. They were the culture of the organization and they were making decisions about the future of their organization and indeed how that organization led and drives industry. And I wanted a seat at that table. I wanted to help make decisions to form a future for organizations that I was working with and to have add a little bit of women's voice and bringing forward, just a different perspective. So I've got more than a decade of experience working on governance boards, and I'm really thrilled to share what I've learned with you today. So let's jump in. First of all, what is a board? What is a committee? So technically, a board is a board of directors, so individual people, and they are a governing body. So they supervise or oversee the abilities and activities of a business. They could be a non-profit organisation, a commercial enterprise, they could be a government agency. Any organisation at all could have a board and a board of directors. They have powers and duties and responsibilities. So the duties and the powers and the responsibilities are determined by law and the governing bodies or regulations that they exist in. So they might have industry regulations, they might have state or federal government requirements. They would absolutely have a constitution. Anyone who has incorporated a company in any way knows that a constitution is automatic. Happy to talk through that further if anybody has any questions about that. And in Australia, all of that is governed by the Corporations Act from 2001. So to break it down into what is a board member, what are their legal responsibilities? It's really about duty. So duty to act for a proper purpose. You must not use your powers in an improper way. A duty to act in good faith, and there are definitions of these in the Corporations Act and indeed in the constitutions. A duty to act with care and diligence. A duty to avoid conflicts of interest, and we'll cover this a little bit later, and a duty to prevent insolvent trading. There are other duties which are administrative. So that's kind of what a board is. So a board of directors is a governing body. It has rules and regulations, very tight rules and regulations, but they are a governing body. A committee, on the other hand, is a group of people that have been chosen by another group to act or consider matters of a particular nature. So committee members are not directors. They do not have all of those 6 legal requirements. They do not have to conform, or they should conform to the Constitution, but they do not have to have a duty of care or any of the other duties or responsibilities that a director does have. They do have a charter that they need to follow, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we move forward. But that's pretty much what a board and a committee is. So just 2 separate areas. We're talking about both today because a committee leads to a board and a board is also open for committee work. So board service, why? For me, it was about making an impact and having a seat at the table and putting forward my perspective as a woman, as a business owner, as a leader in my field. But if you imagine that you are part of a group that is going to shape the direction of the organization that you're working for, they're going to create policies, they're going to drive strategic direction, they're going to lead the organization into the future. Serving on a board is not about a title on your CV. So this is really important. Being part of a board is about service. Being part of a committee is also about service. You might exchange, as you get to a certain level, you might exchange your service for money, but it's still about service. So many of the boardrooms, and part of the reason why I'm here seems like it's it's too far away. I'm not qualified. I don't know much about it. I don't have any formal qualifications. Today, I want to shatter that for you and give you a way where you, specifically you, can make a difference and consider how you might, or if you might, or if you want to, be part of a committee or board. So being part of a board, it's an opportunity to learn, because we should always be learning, right? Continuous learning. You can mentor or be mentored. You can innovate and be part of the future of the direction of the organization that you're sitting on the board with. And importantly, you are going to have an opportunity to bring your unique perspective. This is really important. The more female voices that we have, the more female leaders that we have in these spaces, the better a quality of decisions and direction that the board has. The little graph there has kind of, a nice even 25% of each of those 4 areas. At any given time on a committee or board, that might shift and change. So you might be in a higher learning field and less in the mentoring area. You might be on a board or on a committee, and you might be more in the innovative space. So that will kind of but you might have 80% of your opportunities there is in that innovation space. But across all of the 4, what you want to do is in some way gain learning and give learning, gain mentorship and give mentorship, innovate and learn from, the innovation and the opportunities that exist as you innovate, and your perspective. Share your perspective and understand other people's perspectives. So that graph should be rotating according to how you feel you can give or receive at any given time. Okay, so now we know what things are. What's our first step? And as business owners and business leaders, you might have heard this, the why. Yep, we have to define our why. You need to understand, and this is part of how you would pitch the reason why somebody would hire you for that role. You need to understand your why. What is your passion? So I'm on 2 not-for-profit boards at the moment. Both of them have animals attached to them. I'm an animal person. So anything that has animals in it, that's where my kind of passions lie. Your passions might lie in sport. Your passions might lie in fashion or retail. Your passions might align in organizational structure. Your passions might align in like wherever your passions align, have a look at, well, where can you support your passion with why I'd like to work or why I would like to commit to this organization. And then align your values. All of the organizations, particularly in the not-for-profit sector, have a very clear list of values and their mission about and their purpose about why they exist. You need to make sure that your values align. Otherwise, your perspective will be fighting against the values of the organization because you're not aligned. So have a look at your why. It's really important. On each of these steps, and you can get a copy of the slides, on each of these steps, I've put a little, try this. So once you work through your why and what motivates you, what's your powerful story, that will go into, a portion of that will go into the CV or into your cover letter. So understanding your why and your values is really important when you're going to apply. Okay, step 2, build your credentials. Now, you may not be in a situation where you have governance credentials. You may not have worked on a board before. You may have no experience whatsoever. It doesn't matter. You can still build your credentials. A board CV, and you'll get in the handout, you'll get a copy of a template that you can build a board CV with. And a board CV is very different than a work CV. So you'll need to have a separate one if you're looking at a board or a committee. What's important here with building your board ready CV and your credentials is that you're going to highlight your leadership roles. Now, you may not be in a leadership position in your company, but you may have led a project, have been part of the delivery of something new or innovative in your space, and that you can highlight your role in that. What strategic decisions have you made as part of a team or individually? What kind of projects have you spearheaded? What ideas have you had? You can use all of these to highlight why you should be considered for the particular committee or board that you're looking at. You want to emphasize your transferable skills. So I've worked in so many different industries, but what happens with my transferable skills is that I'm an excellent problem finder and solver. I'm an advocate for, for culture and for mission and for purpose. So these are transferable skills. I'm future focused. I'm very future focused. So if a board or a committee is not looking at the future, I am the wrong fit for them. So these are some of the skills you can look at. Like, what do you bring as a person? Not your job skills necessarily, but how does that translate into something transferable? And I'm happy to talk about this further in the questions if anybody has questions about this. So your career CV focuses on your skills rather than your value, and the board CV focuses on the value that you bring. So even if you don't have board experience, you have value to bring. You have a perspective, you have a lived experience, you have worked experience, you have cultural experiences, you have something to offer. You absolutely do. If you add your why and the value that you bring, you have credentials. Okay, step 3, educate yourself. I'm a huge advocate for making sure that we stay up to date and informed. And it's really hard with so much information out there, but what is important is about being informed. If you're on a board, every decision you make is about following a process and analyzing information, asking questions, and reviewing the opportunities that are on the table and the various decisions that need to be made. So staying informed is really, really important. We cannot stay informed across everything. So seek education programs that are within your area of expertise. Seek education programs that you just have an interest in and you're like, I want to explore that. And I don't mean formal education. You do not have to sign up to the university. You do not have to sign up for a paid course. You can look at YouTube. This webinar is about educating yourself and learning more, and it will connect you through to other podcasts and webinars to keep you informed. So this is what this is about, educating yourself so that you can be informed. I prioritize my learning in a couple of different ways. So I have at least 2 webinars per month that I need to go on and that I attend, and I prioritize that. So there's a minimum of 2. Sometimes it's like 1 a week, depending on what's sort of going on in the governance sector, or I'm on a sporting board. So in the sports, if something's going on within sport, I'm on a lot more. But I prioritize at least 2 of them so that I'm getting all the latest information. I'm on a couple of different newsletters, and I prioritize reading those newsletters. And I know it's hard because so much information comes at us, but choose which ones you want to read. Don't sign up for 6, sign up for 1, maybe 2, but stay informed, keep yourself up to date. That will help you to showcase your passion and also make sure that you are across some of the latest activities and information. Okay. Also, don't forget your attendance here is one of those learnings, right? So you can include, there's in the CV section, there's an education area. You do not have to list formal education. You can put that you regularly attend various webinars and activities in this particular sector or on this particular topic. That just shows that you're staying informed. Okay. So which organization to consider? So you've got your why. You've got your passions worked out. You know that you need to show your value rather than your work skills. But who do you apply to? There's a number of different ways to analyze which organization you want to consider, but this is how I do it. So not all board opportunities are created equal. And what I mean by that is that boards that are paid boards usually are government boards. They are usually private enterprises. They're usually large corporates, ASX listed companies. They absolutely need credentials within the governance space. They absolutely need an introduction. They need and want a number of different criteria. So if you're in that space, you can consider some of those boards. If you're just starting, which is what we're talking about today, and you want to think about it, and we want more women and to be proactive and to have a voice on a board, what you want to consider is, if the board role is unpaid, how much time can you volunteer, and who would you want to volunteer with? So who are your target audiences or target organizations? So look for companies in your sector, in your home. So you might work in IT, you might work in logistics, you might work in retail, you might work in admin, manufacturing, wherever you work. What organizations, what charities, what not-for-profits, what associations, what sporting clubs and your home, what sort of schools, what retirement villages, what's going on in your community that you want to sort of say, you know what, I actually want to give back into that space. Have a look at who those organizations are. Then have a look at, do they have committees? Is there a way that I could explore by going on to a committee as opposed to a board, because the board might take a couple of years or it might take 6 months, depending on when a placement is available. You might have an opportunity to kind of go, oh, okay, I'm going to volunteer at a particular event at the school. I'm going to do a bit of volunteer work and see what it's like. See if they align their values and they deliver on that purpose. So have a look at the organizations in your space, whether it be your lived space, your work space, or your passion space. As I said, with the animals, I look for organisations that support animal welfare and support the link between the humans and animals. So when I'm looking for not-for-profits or where I'd like to give I call it my passion time, which is my volunteer time, I look for organisations in that space. They do not have to be immediately local to me. So I live in the Melton area in Victoria. And I'm on the board of GAWS, Geelong Animal Welfare Society. So that's like an hour drive away from me. It's a significant distance, but they have an incredible program that aligns to my values. So I'm a member of that board. So have a look at organisations within your space and within your sphere. The other thing is when you're looking at organisations, when you apply to an organisation, and we'll talk about this a little bit further, is that you need to be clear about why you want to join that organisation. So having something that is more localised to your passion or your understanding gives you a greater way to be able to show how you could input into that space. Okay, step 5, you need to connect intentionally. These jobs are generally not advertised in your normal sort of space. If you have targeted a particular organization, you will be able to look at their website, you'll get their newsletter. If it's a school that your kids go to, you'll be able to sort of see what's sort of going on in terms of committees or, whether the school council is getting together, those kinds of things. So stay informed and then connect intentionally. So what you want to do in this space is let the committee know, reach out to a committee and say, I'm really interested in supporting you. We'll let the board members know. You can either send them an email, you could go to a board meeting when they have AGMs, annual general meetings, or when they're having something open to the public. Let the CEO know, or the principal, or whoever's running the organisation, that you would be interested in supporting the organisation through a committee or a board. Let them know. And as I said, in the tip area, sign up for the communications. Make sure you let them know that you're interested. One of the areas here is when it says don't forget about the committees, because they're amazing spaces, and they are, and you can do a lot of great work there. Committees generally have a charter. If you don't have, if there's no charter in the committee that you're looking at, you might want to have a look at what the committee's role is and what's its purpose. Who does the committee report to, so that you can better understand what impact you can have. Because the last thing you want to do, right, is commit some time, add some passion time to the committee, and then find that there was no real outcome. So you really need a good charter. So connect intentionally, reach out to people. It is okay to reach out to strangers in this space and say, hey, I'm interested and I see that you're on a committee, or I understand that you're on the board. I'd love to let you know that I'm interested. I would also say to you that if you do that, make a note somewhere so that you know who you spoke to, because people move on and off a committee. So when you get a new committee member, you can let them know. Okay, step 6, position yourself strategically. What I mean by this is when it's time to present yourself to the committee or the board, you need to make sure that your pitch, your reason for your application is very, very clear. So you've got your why, you're prepared to articulate how you can deliver your service, whether it be on a board or a committee. You can showcase your background, your perspectives, and your skills through your board CV. And what you want to be able to do is you can showcase your impact through examples of your entrepreneurial journey or your previous service journey, in terms of you worked with another committee and this is how you worked and these are the outcomes that you delivered. Bearing in mind, it's not about the role, it's about the outcomes and the value that you prepare. In your CV, you'll find that there's an area where you put your board statement. This is a short and compelling sentence or two about who you are and what you bring to the table, why you're passionate, what you're contributing to the organisation, basically what you're offering. So don't generalize this, make it specific. So that they're very clear about this person seems fantastic. They're very aligned with our values. They're and they align with the priority of the board and where we're going. So position yourself strategically. All righty. Step 7, we're nearly there. Embrace challenges and build resilience. Really important in this space. Getting a board role can sometimes take a year or two, depending on what board you're targeting. When new board members, they're generally board members change over annually, and each board has a different timing when that happens. Some board members are elected, some board members are appointed. Committees generally do a review every 12 months or so, depending on the type of committee they have. So it can take time. So you need to embrace the challenges that might have. You might apply, think you've got everything right. You've waited the year, you've done the application, and they don't move forward with you. And you're like, okay, I can't apply again for another year. So do not, I can't tell you not to doubt. We all doubt, right? We all have moments of doubt. But I want you to know that what you have to offer is of value. We need to hear your perspective and your position more than ever before. We need more women and more people that are coming from a space of positivity and purpose, guiding the organisations that we have. Now, there are over 60,000 charities in Australia. So there are so many places and opportunities that need you and need your perspective and support. So embrace the challenges that come forward, because we're on a mission to deliver some incredible value to the community and build your resilience, particularly over time. Okay, step 8, the final step. I do love 8. All right, have courage. Go for it. In the end, absolutely nothing replaces getting on that starting line and actually moving forward and taking the first step. So reach out when you've identified an opportunity, and that opportunity might be an organization. Don't hesitate to express your interest. Let them know you're interested. Let them know that you offer a particular value. You might have 2 of the values or 2 of the skills and of the 7 that they're looking for, but you won't know which of the 7 are the highest priorities. They might be your 2 skills. So do not look at it and say, I've only got 2 of the 7 that's listed. You've got 2, you go for it. You've got 1, you go for it. They might be exactly the skill set that they really, really need. Follow up. When you've had a conversation with someone, follow them up again, connect in with the committee again. Let them know that you're aligned and you're still interested. Connect and build those relationships. So, contribute in some other ways. Show people that you're interested, whether it be volunteering. So much of what we do in our communities is through volunteerism. So if you can't volunteer, and it's okay because we don't all have the time, then make sure you show some real love and support and care for others that are volunteering, and just give back that support. Mentoring, at the Rare Birds community is an incredible space, and where many of us are mentors in this space. So look at supporting mentors, being a mentor, and really just go for it. Have the courage. You've got this. If you need a little bit of a pat on the back that you can do this, then reach out. I will absolutely tell you you've got this. Now, if you need more technical information, Halia Stevenson has a Take On Board community, and the handouts have the links to it. So she does a fantastic podcast, really, really good. And she's got a board starter program that comes highly recommended. Women on Boards is another area that you can, or another organisation that you can connect into. And the Australian Institute of Company Directors is Australia's leading governance advocate and institute for learning, but it is much at the higher level. So if you're just starting out, then the free services through the AICD, Australian Institute of Company Directors, are great. Women on Boards, but I highly recommend Halia and the Take On Board community there. So just before we go, define your why. Build and refine your credentials. These credentials are your values, what you can offer. They are not just your, official learnings. Educate yourself on governance and board dynamics, so ongoing learning, and that includes newsletters and just keeping yourself up to date. Get yourself a target list of organisations you'd like to work with or contribute to. Connect intentionally. There's no point reaching out, letting them know once a year and then wondering why they don't get back to you. You've got to kind of stay connected. Research opportunities that align with your values. If they don't align with your values, step away, because this is your time that you're giving. So if it doesn't serve you, you're not going to be able to serve the organisation. Position yourself strategically and give yourself a really good reason as to why you want to be part of this organisation. Have courage and resilience and just go for it. Investigate before you accept a director position. In the handouts, there's a number of pages about a bit of a checklist. It's quite extensive. Do not be frightened by the number of questions that are on that checklist. Use them. You can check them off really quickly, but investigate before you take a director position. A committee, you can still use the same checklist to do a bit of a review. It just won't be as extensive. So thank you. That's pretty much it for me in terms of presenting. Am I on time? Ooh, I'm on time.
Oh, Heather, thank you so much. That was absolutely amazing. Thank you for kind of breaking down what that whole board process looks like, what to expect when jumping on a board. I mean, we are going to have some time for questions. So if anyone does have any questions they'd like to ask Heather, feel free to pop them in the Q&A chat, and we're going to get to them in just a moment. But Heather, earlier on, you mentioned that obviously a lot of boards it is volunteering your time, and even if it is paid role, it is still your time, generally outside of what you do on a day-to-day.
Yeah.
So we'll have a lot going on. We're all very busy people. How much is a reasonable amount of time, let's say a month, to give to a board or a committee?
I think that the key word there is reasonable. We're all in different stages of our life. I have a bit of a portfolio career as well as being a dual business owner, so I allocate specific time to a board role. I would say if you're looking at a committee and it's an activity committee, then you would be looking at a lot more intense. You might need 3 or 4 hours for one meeting because you're delivering to an event, but you might only do that 2 or 3 times a year. If you are in a committee that is dealing with policies, then you might be looking at an hour or 2 once a month. If you are working within committees like nominations committees or risk committees, you would be looking at a quarterly kind of time frame. You might be looking at sort of 4 hours, at 4 hours or so a month. If you are looking at a board work, so I'll give you a classic example of one of my boards with my not-for-profit, it's approximately 1 to 1.5 hours a week that I spend looking at what's the board papers, also being aware of the documentation that's coming through, keeping in track with the newsletters and what's going on with the organisation. With the sports board that I chair, I'm looking at like 3 hours a week minimum. So that's quite a bit of difference. In some of the private boards I'm on, it's about 4 hours once a quarter. So it does really vary. What's reasonable is about what you would match up. What does the organisation need? Do they need to create a strategic plan? Is an event going on? Are they changing their direction? Are they in? Do they have pain and a problem and they're trying to fix it? Or is it business as usual? Because business as usual will give you more of an idea that you probably won't be necessarily pulled in for more time. The one thing that I think is worth mentioning is that on a committee, you're generally on a committee for 6 months to a year. Sometimes longer. You can be invited back. On a board, it's called a term. And on a board, most boards go for approximately 6 years. So the average is about 6 years. So that's 6 years. You can obviously resign beforehand, but you wouldn't do that too often because moving forward into another board, that doesn't sit as well. But you would be looking at, you're committing this not only weekly, but for 6 years or up to 6 years. So one of my terms is ending shortly. So I've been there for 6 years. So Yeah. So it really is about reasonable for you.
Yeah. Amazing. 6 years on a board. It must be bittersweet to
It's
leave something
so
after that long.
exciting. It's so exciting to be able to step away knowing that you have been part of the future, and also knowing that the people that are there, particularly as chair, people that are there, they're ready, they're capable. The succession is working really well. It's really nice knowing you've impacted an organisation. And in my case, with the sporting organisations, thousands and thousands of children all around Australia. It's really good. This is why you kind of connect into your why.
Yeah, no, perfect. That makes sense. So really, when considering, the amount of time you're going to give, it's part of your research before accepting a position. I mean, kind of leading on from that, then, what do you think would be one of the most important questions to ask a board before you consider joining them?
Insurance. It's the first question. Committee, you don't need to ask that. If you're on a committee that's an event committee, you would. It's like, what insurance do we have for this event or this activity? But on a board, you're a director. If you're going to be a director or a non-executive director, the word director is still in there. And under the laws in Australia, that means that insurance is required. There are a number of duties. So the board should have professional indemnity insurance. It should have directors and officers insurance, because that's for the individuals. It should have public liability, and you cannot now go without cyber. So, there's 4 key, as a minimum, baseline minimum, there's 4 key insurances. You will want to see the policies before you accept any position, because you want to make sure that the policies are suit the organisation. Liability as a director is a very big area that you need to consider, and it can be a little bit scary, but with the proper insurances, that's important. The second question you want to ask is, if you haven't seen the strategic plan, you'd want to see it. It's like, what is the direction? What are they working towards? What's their North Star? You really want to know where they're going, because you want to know whether you're going to be part of that. So that would be your key 2 questions, I think.
So going back to that liability that you just mentioned, if you are on a board, not a committee, but a board, what are you liable for as a board member?
You are liable for your actions, your behaviour, your ability to ensure the financial capability and resilience of the organisation. You are liable for the culture, the behaviour, the staff, the well-being. You are liable for absolutely everything that organisation has. And this is one of the powers and the benefits of having, when you have that ability to shape the culture, to define the definition or the direction of the organisation, that comes with enormous responsibility. So you are liable. You must make sure that the company is viable, financially viable. You must make sure that the stakeholders and that the members are, that you're fit for purpose, particularly if you're a charity or a not-for-profit. You must make sure that your staff, and you have a duty of care to all of the staff and all of the volunteers and everyone that's associated with that. And then there are a number of other areas as well. I listed, I think, 6 duty of cares at the start. So they're liabilities that you would have to ensure that the board. So the board is a collective. So together, you would be responsible for those. And good directors and officers insurance ensures that if one of the directors is seen in public doing something absolutely unacceptable behaviour and is taken to task, that the rest of the board is not held accountable for that person's activities. So everyone needs to be very careful and aware of what they do online. We need to be a bit kinder to everybody. But yeah, there's some key responsibilities. With that responsibility comes such opportunity, though, to create impact. So you kind of weigh that up about where you're feeling. And everybody should feel a little bit nervous about that. That's the right feeling to have. So if you're feeling a little bit nervous, it's about evaluating your risk.
Yeah, amazing. And do you have any tips for ways in order to make sure that you are okay in that liability space?
Yeah, so check the insurance policies. That's always really good. Now, the other thing is that insurance policies, I don't know about you, but oh my gosh, they're so hard to read, right? Super hard to read. But there's some key areas within the insurance policies. And you can have, a couple of those key areas are what's actually covered. The other thing you might want to ask is, you'd ask the organization, have you ever made a claim? So like, what are you kind of walking into? What is the past of the organization? You would then kind of ask, is there any outstanding or current actions against the company? So you know then what you're walking into. If you're walking into an organization that's never really had a claim, or it's only had a small sort of work cover kind of claim, it hasn't, is not in the middle of some sort of court situation or anything, then you have it's a lot more probability of being able to do good work and having a lower risk in terms of insurance and deliverables. But that is definitely something to consider. So read the insurance policies.
Yeah, great. And last question before, I know we've got a couple in the Q&A. Once you've actually made it to the board, congratulations, you're on the board. What do you expect? What's the general running of a board?
Okay, so you would get a letter of offer. So the letter of offer outlines that you have, been offered a position on the board, and this is part of the official register that goes through to ASIC, because you've got to have ASIC, right, and then the ATO and all the usual sort of things. So you'll get a letter of offer, and then you will do your due diligence after that letter of offer. So you can wait before you accept and ask for a whole host of information. Use the checklist, look at the strategic plans, read the annual reports, get any advice, ask any questions, get the information about the insurance policies. That all of that will be provided with you once you get your letter of offer. Once you accept, assuming that you accept a position on the board, you go into induction. Every board, depending on the industry, will have different inductions. But generally speaking, there is an induction, and the chair and or CEO will encourage or sit down with the new director and will take them through all of the policies, where you can find them, what they are, where they align to, all of the committees, what is the charter, and as well as the schedule. They will also give you all the up-to-date financial information that may not be available publicly yet. So you'll get all of that information. There's a fair bit of reading and catching up to do. So you would kind of read and try and get to grips on, where the board is at. And that will depend on if you come in, sort of 9 months before the next cycle, then you've kind of got only just a little bit of information. If you come in quite late, then you've got a whole sort of year to catch up on before it goes to public. So it just depends on the timing. After the induction, you will attend your first board meeting. Now, sometimes the timing means you attend your board meeting and then you'll have your induction. If you haven't had your induction and you're at your first board meeting, it's best if you don't ask any questions. You write them down, because you don't know whether those questions, how relevant those questions are, because they're of interest to you, but you might get the information in the induction. So you write down your key questions, and then after the meeting, you sit down with the chair and say, these are the questions I had. Yeah. And then they'll say, yes, this comes through in the induction. So you really ideally should have your induction before your first meeting. But if not, you'll have that. And then you will, your board meetings could be could be monthly, they could be quarterly, there could be 10 a year. Most of us have sort of 10 a year plus an AGM, and they'll let you in on the schedule, so you already know when the schedule is for the year, whether there's face-to-face or strategic, and you will just participate in the board meeting. Board meetings follow an agenda. An agenda is sent out to the board at least 1 week before, more if you can get it. It's great if you can get it more than a week before, and all the board papers. So board papers, you can access the board papers. They will include the financials, any decisions that need to be made, any conversations. All of that comes in the board pack. So you do not go into the board meeting not knowing what's going to happen or what you need to do. You will know.
Amazing. All right, so we do have a few people popping some questions in. So Loretta has asked value of the director courses. Are the courses an entry paid to boards? Do NFP boards first, then hit the government boards? Like, what are we looking at there?
Okay, so government boards normally need specific credentials. So if you, sometimes it's a benefit to have worked in government, sometimes not. Sometimes they specifically don't want government employees. So government boards are kind of separate. I would separate a government board and have a look at why you really want to be on that board and what your credentials are. Look at the credentials quite separately. For a government board, you will need a graduate. You need to be a graduate of the Australian Institute of Company Directors in most cases, or you'll need some other Governance Institute of Australia qualifications. So when you're looking at not-for-profits are not a training ground, just so that everybody knows. They're not a training ground for, for governance boards. They're very, very strictly run. You can have a not-for-profit that is turning over multiple hundreds of millions of dollars a year, right? These are not always small organizations. A not-for-profit simply means that they have an obligation. They run their organizations exactly the same, but they have an obligation to return profit to the community as opposed to returning profit to a shareholder or an owner, right? So that's really the only difference. So they are normal business. They've got different additional compliance. So a not-for-profit is smaller not-for-profits can be a great way to explore the value that you can give or deliver. So in terms of directors courses, if you're looking at a small not-for-profit, some school community boards, you won't really need those credentials. So they'll be nice to have, but you won't really need them. If you're looking at any kind of board that has an organization that's, $5+ million turnover, you might want to consider, well, what type of learnings or credentials could I offer? People have a lot of learning in their own workplace. Some of that follows governance and policy and aligns really well. I hope that value. So in terms of the value, it's really, it's on the individual and which board you're looking to go for.
Yeah, amazing. So Raquel's asked, she's been on a couple of boards, and one of the common denominators is that she also hears from other people is lack of engagement from members. So some people don't come to meetings. The work usually is done by the few as opposed to the many. So how do you, Heather, deal with a situation like that?
Okay, so as a chair, if you're a director, you need to speak to the chair about the situation. As a chair, if I had this problem, because I don't, I've got incredibly great individuals. And part of having a really good board is having a really good chair. And a really good chair keeps people engaged. They keep people connected. And you also need to understand that some people can't come to a meeting. But there is in our constitution, in your board's constitution, there's a minimum requirement. So if they don't reach the minimum requirement, then they're in breach of their director's duties. So if they're not coming and they're not engaged and they're not contributing, they could be in breach of their director's duties. So you can have a quiet word to the chair about, what's sort of happening within that space. So I would definitely have a conversation with the chair. If you find that if you've got a really good relationship with the person on the board, you could also have a quiet word to them and just say, you know what, I've noticed that, you haven't been saying much or contributing. Are you okay? Is everything okay? Some people have a lot of things going on and they just, we withdraw. So if you can't do that, have a chat to the chair. As I said, a good chair should be drawing everybody's comments and everybody's thoughts. So I pretty much will go around the room, although I don't need to do it very often because I've got a great board who will contribute, but I will make sure that each member of our board has given us their input. Even if their input is, this is not really in my skill set, but I kind of align with what everybody else is saying. So the chair can draw out everybody's contribution, which increases the engagement.
Yeah.
I hope that helps. And if that doesn't work, you might want to consider whether this is the right board for you. You don't have to stay if it's not right.
Yeah. So it goes back to your earlier comment, start with empathy and be more kind.
Yeah. We'll be a little bit kinder to each other.
Well, be a bit nicer. Heather, it's been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and the steps to working towards that board or committee. We will be sending around both the handout and the presentation slides along with the link to the recording a little bit later this afternoon. There was a survey that popped up a little bit earlier. We'd love to get your insights on what you thought of today's session and anything else you'd like us to talk about in the future. As well, if you are interested in being more involved in the Rare Birds community, if you'd love to join us as a mentor, or if you are interested in joining as a mentee, maybe you'd like a mentor to help you get to that that board position, definitely reach out, let us know either in the survey, or you can reach out to me or the Rare Birds team. Heather, thank you again so much. And
can I also just say I've got 3 opportunities at the moment if anybody's interested. So I've got one board role with a sporting organisation, Animal. Everybody knows who that is. And another placement is potentially 2 placements coming up with another animal welfare. And I've got a committee for education and learning. So if anybody has any skill sets in that range or any passions for animals, horses and other animals, please reach out to me on LinkedIn and we'll have a chat about, I'll share with you the roles that are coming up and if there's something that you'd be interested in applying for.
There you go. And we
Come
are
on, ladies.
we are sending Heather's contact information out in the wrap-up email too. So keep an eye out for that if you are interested. Thanks everyone for joining, and hopefully we'll see you again next time.
Thank you.